12 women are dragged into a courtyard. A ship's rope is strung between two pillars, high off the ground. A noose is slipped around each neck, and one by one they are hanged. The poem says their feet twitched for a little while, but not for long. That is a real scene from the Odyssey, the story we hand to children. Christopher Nolan just made it a film, so the world is about to meet this story again, and the version in our heads is a sunlit adventure, a clever hero, a long boat ride home. Monsters you could put on a lunchbox. One caveat, said once, none of this is history. Odysseus is a legend, sung by Homer around the 8th century BCE, passed down for generations, before anyone wrote it down. When I tell you what happens, I mean, that is what the poem says. And here's the thing the poem says that almost nobody notices. We think the scary part of the Odyssey is the sea, the one-eyed giant, the witch, the monster on the cliff. We think the danger is out there, on the water. It isn't. The monsters are the fun part. The monsters are the adventure. The genuinely disturbing part of the Odyssey is what happens when the hero finally gets home. The horror isn't at sea. It's at his own front door, in his own hands. Hold that thought. First, the adventure. The part you already love. It starts with a raid gone wrong, a city called Ismaris, and men lost before they've even met a monster. Then the Lotus Eaters, a flower that erases your will to go home, sailors dragged back to the ship weeping. Then the cave, the Cyclops, Polyphemus, a one-eyed giant who traps the crew and eats them, raw, 2 at a time. Odysseus blinds him with a burning stake and escapes under the belly of a sheep. Brilliant, famous, the scene everyone remembers. Then the cruelest near miss in the whole poem. Aeolus, keeper of the winds, hands Odysseus a bag holding every storm so he can sail home safe. And he almost makes it. Ithaca is in sight, close enough to see people on the shore. Then his crew opens the bag, thinking it's treasure, and the winds blow them all the way back. That close, undone by their own hands. Then the cannibal giants who smash the fleet with boulders. Circe the witch, who turns the crew into pigs. A trip to the land of the dead itself, a living man walking among ghosts. The Sirens, whose song lures sailors onto the rocks. Scylla, a cliff monster with 6 heads, each one snatching a screaming man as the ship rows past. And a final thunderbolt that shatters the last ship and drowns everyone on it. Everyone except Odysseus. The crew that left Troy, hundreds of men, 12 ships, is gone. Every one of them dead along the way. That is the cost of the adventure, and the poem never hides it. But notice the shape. The giants, the witch, the sea, the cleverness, the survival against monsters. This is the part we call the great adventure. And it's basically over halfway through the poem, because he does get home. And here you expect relief. The music swells, the hero returns, the story softens. It does the opposite. The story gets darker, not lighter. The monsters were never the horror. This is, his house has been taken over. 108 men, camped in his hall, eating his food, drinking his wine, courting his wife, waiting for her to give up and pick one of them. Odysseus comes home in disguise. He strings his old bow. He bars the doors. And then he does not negotiate. He kills them. All of them. 108 men, cut down in a single locked hall. Arrows first, then spears, then swords, until the floor runs with blood and the survivors are begging on their knees. He spares almost no one. That is the homecoming. A locked-room massacre in the house he spent 20 years trying to reach. And then comes the scene from the very start. There are slave women in the house who slept with the suitors, 12 of them. Odysseus first makes them carry out the corpses of the men. He makes them scrub their own master's blood off the floor. He makes them clean the room where it happened. And when the room is clean, he has them hanged. In the courtyard, Homer compares them to birds caught in a snare, wings beating. Their feet twitched for a little while, but not for long. Then the goatherd who betrayed him. They cut off his nose and his ears, tear away the rest, and throw it to the dogs while he's still alive. This is the hero. In the moment of his triumph, and it still isn't over. The dead men had fathers. In the final book, those fathers take up arms and march on Odysseus for revenge, and the whole island tips toward civil war, neighbor against neighbor. And the killing only stops because a god comes down in person and forces a peace. That is where the great adventure actually ends. Not with a hug, one breath away from everyone, killing everyone, frozen by heaven. So look at the shape of the thing we've been handing to children. The monsters, the sea, the cleverness, the survival, All of that is the adventure, the fun part, the famous part, the part on the lunchbox. And the real darkness was waiting at home the whole time. In the locked hall, on the ship's rope, in the courtyard, in the hero's own hands. We spent 3,000 years calling the sea monsters the scary part. And quietly looking away from the front door,